No, thank heaven. I know you love me, Nadia, just as I love you. You know I never doubted it. But you'll like them, really. They're a wonderful team. Brandon's a big brute, you know, fully 5 centimeters taller than I am, and he weighs close to 100 kilograms, and no lard either. He's wild, impetuous, always jumping at conclusions and working out theories that seem absolutely ridiculous. But they're usually sound, even though impractical. Westfall's the practical member. He makes Norm pipe down, pins him down to facts, and makes it impossible to put his hunches and wild flashes of genius into workable form. Quince is a "now you pipe down." I've heard you rave so much about those two. I'd lots rather rave about you, and with more reason. I wish that sounder would start sounding. Our first message hasn't gone halfway yet. It takes about 40 minutes for the impulse to get where I think they are, so that even if they got the first one and answered it instantly, it would be 80 minutes before we'd get it. I sort of expect an answer late tonight, but I won't be disappointed if it takes a week to locate them. "I will," declared the girl, and indeed very little work was done that day by either of the castaways. Slowly the day wore on, and the receiving sounder remained silent. Supper was eaten as the sun dropped low and disappeared, but they felt no desire to sleep. Instead, they went out in front of the steel wall, where Stevens built a small campfire. Leaning back against the wall of their vessel, they fell into companionable silence, which was suddenly broken by Stevens. "Nadia, I just had a thought. I'll bet $4 I've wasted a lot of time. They'll certainly have automatic relays on Tellus to save me the trouble of hunting for them, but like an idiot, I never thought of it until just this minute, in spite of the speech I made you about them. I'm going to change those directions right now." "That's quite a job, isn't it?" "No, only a few minutes." "Do it in the morning. You've done enough for one day. Maybe you've hit them already, anyway." They again became silent, watching Jupiter, an enormous moon some 7 degrees in apparent diameter. "Steve, I simply can't get used to such a prodigious moon. Look at the stripes, and look at that perfectly incredible—" A gong sounded, and they both jumped to their feet and raced madly into the Hope. The ultra-receiver had come to life, and the sounder was chattering insanely. Someone was sending with terrific speed, but with perfect definition and spacing. "That's Brandon's fist. I'd know his style anywhere," Stephen shouted, as he seized notebook and pencil. "Tell me what it says, quick, Steve," Nadia implored. "Can't talk. Read it," Stephen snapped. His hand was flying over the paper, racing to keep up with the screaming sounder. "Emede all X. Stevens Ganymede all X. Stevens Ganymede all X. Placing and will keep Sirius on plane between you and Tellus, circle 1540 north, going Tellus. First send full data spreading beam to cover circle 1540. Quince suggests possibility this message intercepted and translated. Personally, I think such translation impossible, and that he is wilder than a hawk, but just in case, they should be supernaturally intelligent—" Stephen stopped abruptly and stared at the vociferous sounder. "Don't stop to listen, keep on writing," commanded Nadia. "Can't," replied the puzzled mathematician. "It doesn't make sense. It sounds intelligent, it's made up of real symbols of some kind or other, but they don't mean a thing to me." "Oh, I see. He's sending mush on purpose. Read the last phrase." "Oh, sure, mush is right." And with no perceptible break, the signals again became intelligible. "If they can translate that, they are better scholars than we are. Signing off until hear from you, Brandon." The sounder died abruptly into silence, and Nadia sobbed convulsively as she threw herself into Stephen's arms. The long strain over, the terrible uncertainty at last dispelled, they were both incoherent for a minute. Nadia glorifying the exploits of her lover, Stevens crediting the girl herself and his two fellow scientists with whatever success had been achieved. A measure of self-control regained, Stevens cut off his automatic sender, changed the adjustments of his directors, and cut in his manually operated sending key. "What waves are you using, anyway?" asked Nadia curiously. "They must be even more penetrating than Roser's rays, to have such a range, and Roser's rays go right through a planet without even slowing up." "They're of the same order as Roser's, that is, they're subelectronic waves of the fourth order, but they're very much shorter, and hence more penetrating. In fact, they're the shortest waves yet known, so short that Roser never even suspected their existence." "Suppose there's a Jovian spaceship out there somewhere that intercepts our beams. Couldn't they locate us from it?" "Maybe, and maybe not. We'll just have to take a chance on that. That goes right back to what we were talking about this morning. They might be anywhere, so the chance of hitting one is very small. It isn't like hitting the Sirius, because we knew within pretty narrow limits where to look for her, and even at that we had to hunt for her half a day before we hit her. We're probably safe, but even if they should have located us, we'll probably be able to hide somewhere until the Sirius gets here. Well, the quicker I get busy sending the dope, the sooner they can get started." "Tell them to be sure and bring me all my clothes they can find, and a gallon of perfume, a barrel of powder, and a carload of Del Rey's fantasy chocolates. I've been a savage so long that I want to wallow in luxury for a while." "I'll do that, and I want some real cigarettes." Stevens first sent a terse but complete account of everything that had happened to the Arcturus, and a brief summary of what he and Nadia had done since the cutting up of the IPV. The narrative finished, he launched into a prolonged and detailed scientific discussion of the enemy and their offensive and defensive weapons. He dwelt precisely and at length upon the functioning of everything he had seen. Though during the long months of their isolation he had been too busy to do any actual work upon the weapons of the supposed Jovians, yet his keen mind had evolved many mathematical and physical deductions, hypotheses and theories, and these he sent out to the Sirius, concluding, "There's all the dope I can give you. Figure it out, and don't come at all until you can come loaded for bear. They're bad medicine. Call us occasionally to keep us informed as to when to expect you, but don't call too often. We don't want them locating you, and if they should locate us through your ray or ours, it would be just too bad. So long, Stevens and Newton." Nadia had insisted upon staying up and had been brewing pot after pot of her substitutes for coffee while he sat at the key, and it was almost daylight when he finally shut off the power and arose, his right arm practically paralyzed from the unaccustomed strain of hours of telegraphing. "Well, sweetheart, that's that," he exclaimed in relief. "Brandon and Westfall are on the job. Nothing to do now but wait, and study up on our own account on those Jovians' rays. This has been one long day for us, though, little ace, and I suggest that we sleep for about a week." End of Chapter 7.